Hey guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. So today, as you know by the title, we are going to be discussing Houston and the power outages and the cutoff of the water systems and broken pipe systems, and how that has affected me in particular and the city of Houston. So, and surrounding cities as well. We don't want to leave that out for sure. So that is what I'll be discussing today. So we'll also be including some clips and footages for you guys to see, just so you can actually see a visual of how bad it was in Houston. And for anyone thinking of moving here to Houston, probably want to reconsider a different state overall. And I'm going to definitely touch on why I'm saying move to a different state than Texas. And how it's just not only about Houston, it's about the state overall and how they conduct their, business affairs and everything, and why it's not a good decision if you're thinking of moving to Houston in the future. So yeah, we're going to get into that. All right. So as you guys may have known or may have heard, if you're in a different state other than Texas, I know many heard about the Texas storm, the winter storm that broke out, I believe was on the 15th, on Monday. Yeah, it broke out on the 15th and left, I believe, almost 3 million people without power, without water. And you can just imagine, like, with COVID and with the addition of COVID not even fully gone yet, we have to now, the people of Houston have to now try to come up with this plan, an A game, to see how they can live and get into this mode of survival. So, you guys can just imagine that. So basically, I'm going to get into the gist of what happened and what caused this power outage and water outage as well. So basically, unfortunately, Texas being a southern state, they're not used to winter storms. It's not like a northern state, like you can say, like probably Michigan gets a lot of winter storms, New York, it's not a northern country, so it's quite unlikely that they would, expect a winter storm. So you can only imagine once that winter storm was announced, and the government really had to get ready and prepare for this. You can only imagine how that was kind of like an unknown thing to do, or kind of like, I would say, frustrating, because they've said it's never gotten this code since 1989. So thinking of that, it's like, okay, you're hit with this winter storm, they're not really too sure on what to do or how to combat this, being that it's like a first. So what eventually took place was that, millions of people had to suffer for this winter storm. Once the lights were taken out, it's like, okay, we have to now divide the lights amongst different regions of Houston and surrounding Texas cities. And they just had to they couldn't, I don't know, it was a really, really weird situation for them. So that's what led to the power outages. One of the currents or something like that just wasn't working well. I don't really know too much on that, sorry, but something about just the energy was wrong. So then we get into the water situation. They had to basically cut off the water to avoid pipes being broken and leaking. And, that's another dilemma we had to deal with. So it's more so just about understanding why this is happening. I mean, for me, City of Houston has cut off our water several times, and the winter storm was not even involved at that time. So it's like, what I'm not getting is, the light part of it, because we do need a light to see, so I didn't get taking the light part, but the water part was, somewhat understandable, because if those pipes, break off, your house is going to, start leaking with water, the faucet is going to be off, and you can only imagine the slew of issues that can come about with your water pipe breaking. So nobody wanted to go through that. And I think some pipes did break as well. I'm going to show you guys some content and photos and videos of that. But in terms of the power outage, literally, guys, imagine waking up. Like for me, I woke up, that Monday morning, and it was freezing cold. I don't know what to do. I have to be at work at 8. Thankfully, I work from home. which was great at that point. But it's like, okay, how do I at least connect to internet to work? And that was so hard, guys. Then we have the water issue. It's like, okay, well, how can I at least take a decent bath? Like, that is so unsanitary. You add in the issues of COVID and, catching this virus. Well, now with taking our water, you're making us susceptible to getting and actually contracting this virus. Without any kind of water supply, people are going to like try to go into shelters and huddle all up together and be right after each other, and have people go into shelters. That's going to increase the number of people in shelters, and increase human contact, and just increase chances of getting that coronavirus and the variants that have come up. I know you guys have heard about the South African variant. You guys have heard about the UK variant, and it's like, this is terrible. And I think there was even 2 cases of those variances. And I'm sorry, I think there was even 2 cases of those variances actually in Houston, Texas. So it's like, think about that, like you're not only increasing this issue more, but you're putting us out there and more susceptible to more diseases and viruses that we did not ask for. So I think it's just more so about being prepared. The state of Texas was not prepared for this, and they admitted that. The mayor of Houston said that, Sylvester, he mentioned that, Mayor Sylvester, and he said, we weren't prepared for this. We were trying to distribute the power amongst every household, so it's even, and not just one household getting it all. But at the same time, we're still like, okay, well, what do we do? Give us some sort of resource. Give us, you have people having to go to shelters, and unfortunately, that's what some people have to do. I know for me, when I woke up on Monday morning, I had to be at work, and I just couldn't be there. So I called my supervisor. I told her the issue. She said, that's fine. I understand this because it's a major disaster. She could understand that. So what I had to now do was go to this hotel. I think I went to the Holiday Inn across, just a couple of blocks down, and I had to connect to their Wi-Fi. I had to just, literally make this place like my own little job area, because it's like literally I had no expectations that this was going to happen. So guys, it was so hard. It was really, really a tough situation. You can imagine it was literally like, I think 20 degrees on Monday. Then Tuesday was the worst night of my life. It was freezing. My legs were shivering. I couldn't even get a good, adequate sleep. As you guys can see, I have little bags under my eyes. So that was terrible overall, is what I'm trying to say. Like, with living in Texas, it's you get the unexpected. You never know what you're going to get. So for me, it's like, I would never want to raise my kids here. I would never want to have to explain to them, oh, well, the lights are off. This is a state that doesn't know how to deal with it, and it's like, no, I'd never want to have to explain that to a little vulnerable child. And for me, I feel like I always have high expectations for myself. So there's no reason for me to want to stay in Houston further on. So that, just to give you guys a little gist, I've been born and raised in Houston, and I know the differences between then and now. So during the time, like, I was little and I was going to elementary school and middle school, like, Texas was it was bearable. It was okay. It wasn't terrible living conditions. I think the only one time they took our light was in 2008. I was in middle school, and they had to take it due to the Hurricane Katrina. And guys, that was a long wait. That was for like a week. But they did it, they did come back and put the lights back on, and it's like, still at that, it was still, a hard thing to deal with, but it's like we still had, water. So we could take a shower, we could feel good and clean. But, in this kind of case, it's like they didn't want to give us anything. They didn't want to compensate for anything. It's just like, you deal with it, and you live in the state of Texas. So, and it's like, wow, like, what do you tell the people that are not used to living in Texas? Like, because for me, I was used to it. Like I said, they've taken the water before, but they've taken the lights before, but not the water. So it's like, So I was a little bit kind of used to that. And, as you guys know, I'm from Nigeria. So in Nigeria, it's motor survival 24/7. They don't leave the light on for you 24 hours a day, unfortunately. That's a third world country vibe you get, unfortunately. And that's expected because the government doesn't have all the resources. They don't have this, they don't have that. So that is something you can't really criticize too much because it's just, you get what you get and it is what it is. But for Texas, for them to just give us this kind of I don't care demeanor, everyone get into your mode of survival. You don't tell that to taxpayers. You don't tell that to people that go to work every day. You don't tell that to people that, pay their taxes. It's terrible. And actually there was a governor that actually said that, on his Twitter page. And I guess he was just so pissed at everybody complaining, and it wasn't Mayor Sylvester Turner. No, it was a different mayor, and I think in city of Colorado in Texas. And he was like, deal with it. It is what it is, literally deal with it. And I think the next day, guys, he resigned. Him and his wife just left the office. And I'm like, yeah, because, you're going to have people that come after you for being so irrational and just matter of a fact about it. Like, no. Think of people that, don't come from third world countries. Think of people that are millionaires, billionaires, and, everyone had to deal with this. Like, no one was spared in Texas. In San Antonio, people's lights got cut off. In the Galleria area, the lights were cut off. Even I think Sugarland their light was not cut off. Their light was on. So they were good. Sugarland is like a different kind of nicer version of Houston. But either way, it's like this storm didn't spare anyone, regardless of your annual income. If you're a millionaire, if you're, living in the suburbs, everyone's life got taken. Literally. I went to the Galleria area and those homes were the dark, black, pitch black, dark. And it's like, what in the world? And I feel sorry for those homeowners. If you're a homeowner, your lights, if you're a homeowner in Texas, like, imagine the flood. Imagine like after all of the snow goes out, and we only had 1 inch of snow. So it wasn't the end of the world. It's not the Matrix, it's just 1 inch of snow is what literally caused lights to get shut off, water to get shut off. And I just, thankfully they brought the light before they brought the water. So that's awesome. But they didn't give a full definition of why it was so trivial to take off the light. I think it was just more so try to conserve energy is what they mentioned. Yeah, they wanted to really conserve the energy to ensure that, okay, no one's using too much of power. And I'm just like, they ration everything in Texas. And it's like, whoever is saying they want to come to Houston, whoever just moved to Houston, like, I'm sorry, but you are not thinking what you're thinking, Caps. If you're thinking in the terms of, oh, I want cheaper rent, I want to have this great standard of living, I want to be able to, pay X amount of dollars in my mortgage, or I want an affordable home, Houston, Texas, or Texas in general is not the only place in the world that you can get that. You can go to, literally, you can go to, you can go to Colorado, you can go to Arizona, you can go to basically, anywhere, I wouldn't say California or New York because their prices are pretty expensive, but you can go, what I'm trying to say is you can go anywhere besides Houston. Texas is more so just like that. It's still a developing country, if you ask me. It's becoming that third world country. And minorities see that. You literally take a look at the demographics portfolio. You have basically 50% of people minority, they're coming here for their better standard of life. They're coming here for that cheap way of living. And, you can't tell anyone what they should do or not do, but it's like, think about it. If everyone's moving to Houston, everyone wants that gold, silver platter, and they want to live that cheap way of living. Do you think that the whole government is going to be able to accommodate that if people are not working and, not working up to being out of that minority stage? Like, no, the government is going to see everyone as a minority. The government is going to literally put everyone in that little hole, in that little category. Like, oh, okay, this is just how we're going to treat everyone. So it's common sense. It's something you have to think about. A lot of times when you do have, you know, those minorities that come to Houston, they don't want to, I guess, advance their careers or move on from that minority level. They just want to still work their normal minimum wage jobs. And, you know, unfortunately, that affects the economy overall. That affects the, you know, society in Texas overall. The government sees that as, okay, well, this is the, you know, this is what the population is. This is what, you know, the amount of income this population is bringing in. So this is what we're going to categorize it as. So I don't know, guys, it goes into a lot of aspects as well, but I just know Texas is not that place you want to just run to for cheapness, you know, and something you really want to think about. It's kind of like what I was saying, you know, no one should move to Houston. That's what I just want everyone to know. No one should move to Houston in particular. If it is, you know, Texas is a place you really want to be at. You want to experience the big state that, you know, is the biggest state in the country, and, you know, try it. I'm not going to say never come to Texas, but in terms of your standard of living and you want to raise your children here, think if this happened again. You know, think if, like, maybe no one knows tomorrow, right? So think 2 years down the line, if this power outage happens again and your child literally comes to you and asks you, well, why do they take this? Or, you know, oh my God, my iPad's not working. That's really going to hit an emotional spot in your heart. I don't know about others, but for me, it's like, I don't want to explain that to, or have to explain that to my 2-year-old or my 3-year-old and tell them, well, we live in, you know, a terrible state. That's like a third world country. You know, it's like, I just wouldn't even want to go into an explanation on that, because that is just so wrong. Like, I would start blaming myself and say, okay, why didn't I move to somewhere that's a little bit better, like California? Or why didn't, you know, I do make this right choice in life? But it's just, I don't know. So that's one thing you do want to think about if you plan on moving to Texas. Think about the government overall. Do they care about the people that live there? Do they, you know, like literally, I think he was a Senate Ted Cruz. It was shown on the news. He was taking a trip with his family, casual trip to Cancun, Mexico. And when he was asked in the airport, well, you know, hey, Texas is, a lot of residents in Texas don't have power, and you're here taking a trip. You know, what is your reason for that if you're Senate? And he basically just said, well, you know, kind of like pinpointed on the scapegoats, which was his daughters, and said, well, my daughters really like to go to Mexico at this point in time. And, you know, I chose that this was the right time for them to go. And, you know, I'm just returning because it's, you know, and I feel like that he used his daughters as a scapegoat. He shouldn't have said that. What he should have said was the truth, and was that, you know, okay, they took my water, they took my power, and we can't live like this. So we wanted to go to Cancun, Mexico for a little getaway. Like, say that versus just putting the pinpoint on your daughters, and you want to be this good father, and you want to portray your image as good, and you didn't want to say no to them. Like, guys, that was so insane. And he was criticized for that, because literally, it's like, if you're Senate of Texas and you're supposed to represent Texas and the people of Texas, do that, you know? But it's like he kind of just did a one for all thing, and, you know, said every man for themselves, and just took his family to Mexico. So, I mean, guys, you really just have to outweigh, you know, and do your research, you know, Google every kind of Senate, every governor that's a part of Texas, and see, like, what have they done for Texas. And, you know, just go do that, guys, because I would hate for anyone to have to go through what I went through here. I can only imagine those that had children. You know, it was terrible. And, you know, I'm even going to say this for the ladies too. I was thinking about that, like, you know, not having to take a shower. Like, people didn't even get water for like 2 to 3 days in a row. Like, imagine, you know, if you're pregnant and, you know, you didn't take a shower, think of how your body would react to that. You would start smelling, body odor, like, and, you know, for girls, of course, you know, if it's just, unfortunately, that kind of time of the month, it's like, oh my God, what a terrible time to be alive. So literally, guys, it's like, if you're really a realistic person, you like to be real with yourself at this point and say, okay, I've read the reviews about Texas. I've heard everything on the news. maybe Texas is not the place I should go to. Maybe I should try California. Maybe I should try somewhere in the north. Or if I don't like too much of a cold place, let me try something like maybe Atlanta, Georgia, or Maryland, or something, any kind of state, you know, but just not the down most southern country in America. Like, no, you're not gonna get anything for your buck. If anything, you know, you're gonna be used. They're gonna inflate prices. They're gonna, you know, your house is gonna get flooded. They're gonna take your lights and, you know, literally blame you for that and say, well, why didn't you conserve your energy? Well, you know, you're going to be blamed for everything that literally happens, and they're just not going to care. They're going to say, well, get into your mode of survival and see what's you can do, you know, because it's like, like literally when I saw that Ted Cruz was going on his Mexico vacation, I'm like, wow, you know, and it's really not about you being a minority or you being so rich. It's just like, if you're the Senate, you know, you don't take, the first thing you do is not your trip and you watch people suffer, you know, but I mean, I don't know. I mean, for me, like the second day on Tuesday when they took the lights and we still didn't have any water, what I was like, I was thinking, it was like, okay, after just going to that hotel and getting my Wi-Fi, I was like literally thinking like, I'm going to book a trip and get out of here. I was already thinking about taking my Valentine's trip for Hawaii, and to know that I couldn't do that, I was like, oh, you know, okay, whatever. So I'm like, imagine if I was on my Hawaii trip, you know, I would never even have to think of this, but I was just like, oh my God, let me push it for March. So I was like, maybe I really should just right now pack up a little duffel bag and book a ticket to go to Hawaii, because this is insane. Like literally, I went literally 3 days without no water, no lights. And like, as a woman, you start to smell, you know, and as women, we have, you know, our private parts that smell, you know, it's not, our private parts are different from men's. So it's like, if you have, you know, women private parts, it's like, that's just an open, you know, area. And it's like, if you don't wash it, it's just, guys, it was, oh my God. I can't even get into full detail about these things because it's like, so unsanitary, so disgusting. And when you now add in the factor of COVID-19, that's not even away yet. That's not even sanctioned yet. We just have a vaccine that's helping, but there's still variances being created. You add all of that in and you know that, and you just think about that. Okay, well, their variances were also in Houston as well. So if those COVID variances were in Houston and they haven't created just another COVID vaccine for those variances, it's like, you literally get into this mind shock and get overwhelmed. And it's like, dude, I don't know what I'm doing in here. Like, I don't. So it was a shocker for me, you know, but, you know, and at this time, you know, they did bring the lights, as you guys can see. The water pressure is not as, I would say, fast. It's still kind of like slow and running out of the faucet. But I do understand for those reasons, you know, because a lot of people's homes got really like damaged and the pipes broke because it was frozen, and you know, that was terrible. So they don't want that to happen for us. So that's why they're still reducing the water pressure, and you know, eventually that will increase. So that is what is currently going on now. So I'm going to show you guys a couple of clips, videos when I was driving, I think 2 days ago. And you guys are going to really see how Houston looked. Houston had no power. So even if you're going to a business and you're saying, wow, let me go here. Like, the only reason I was able to get a little connection and, you know, go to work and attend my meetings was because I was at a hotel. So thankfully they had power there. But all these other major businesses were closed. Like, Target was closed, you know. Many people were not even thinking of coming to work, you know, to work for anyone if their lights and their power, like common sense things, guys. So when I saw the places closed, I was like, okay, I know it's going to be closed, right? No one's going to risk their own life for anyone. But then you now see like the whole city is like getting dark and there's nothing. And, you know, it really puts it into perspective. So, and guys, even when I wanted to even go get gas 2 days ago, a lot of gas stations were closed. You could not get gas. You had to find the other gas station. So that almost happened to me, to where I was literally running on E, and I wanted to just call the 911 so bad. And I was like, oh my God, I think at one point I did. And I was just like, what am I going to do? And they're like, all we can do is provide you a towing truck, if your car does stop, but we cannot make any, gas station open up. I'm so sorry. So it's just, you get these runarounds, you get this, all we can do for you is this and that, and I guess I'm not being ungrateful or anything. I'm happy, if someone at least answered, but it was terrible, guys. It's not what you expect in America. If you're a taxpayer, that's not what I expected at all, but it's a mode of survival. You really have to get into that. And guys, once I found a place that had gas, I parked my car and got my gas. So that was that. And I really don't even need gas, because I stay at home. I work from home. I'm an introvert. I don't need to go out and do anything, honestly. So that was that. And yeah, guys, it was pretty hard. So take a look at these clips I'm going to show you. It's going to really give you emphasis and a better understanding of how Houston was during this terrible winter storm. So this is the blackout. This is how it looks in Houston right now. Everywhere is dark. I am in my car driving. There's just no services anywhere. The city has restricted all places from even being, open. And this is what it currently looks like, guys.
In 1.3 miles. Take a slight left turn to merge onto I-69 South.
So I am currently on my way out of Houston, because this is a third world country, and they think that that's just the mentality they have in Houston. It's basically a third world mentality, and that's what you're just gonna get by default. So this is just what Houston has.
In 1 mile, take a
So this is currently how Houston looks. There's literally no light anywhere. Everywhere is dark and deserted. This is ridiculous. So we are coming up Bissonnet Street, and I mean, guys, you can clearly see how the weather is, how stoplights are not available. Just take a look at this. We're on Bissonnet Street, and there's no stoplight for anyone. So guys, just take a look. It's so dark, like there's no way for me to even enhance this or make it look like there's no light, because there literally just isn't any light. And yeah, part of the reason why it makes you feel like you're in a third world country, because the government will give you that third world mentality mindset. They will not restore your lights, will not give you water to freaking clean your body and just wash yourself up. You get none of that here living in Houston, Texas. So it's a reality shock for sure. If you're thinking about coming to Houston, this is just for anyone thinking of coming to Houston. Like, they don't care. Like, you can be living in the suburbs, of Houston, or living as a minority in an apartment complex, and your lights will be taken from you. Like, no questions asked. So I've literally went through Sugar Land, which wasn't too bad. And here we are in Houston, and the only light showing, guys, is car lights. So that's the gist of it all. There's no lights anywhere. So I'm showing you houses that are like pitch black and dark, and you would wonder, like, what the hell, Are you taking me to Africa? Is this Africa or really a state in USA? Because it's hard to grasp and comprehend at the same time. So this is just what you get, guys. This is it. So for all my company there and everyone watching this video, consider this before you just make that decision to come to Houston. It's not, you know, the greatest guys, look, you know, even major businesses too. I'm over here talking about residential properties. Look at businesses. These are big buildings here, you know, that have a business to run, and they have to shut down to conserve the energy. So guys, look at this. Do you want to, you know, live somewhere where you're not even insured you can get lights to see, and you don't have to wait for daylight? This is really what you're considering, you know? And for those that would say yes, you know, by all means, if you're willing, you know, you want to take, if you're willing to take that risk and just go ahead and say, well, I could care less, I want to go ahead and live in Houston. Cheap, you know, it's a cheaper way of living, it's this, it's that. These are reasons you should not move to Houston, guys. I mean, the cheapest things are not always the best. I mean, I think we know that, you know, anyone knows that personally. Like, if you want something cheap, your quality is going to suffer. Like, you can't get one, you know, or your cake and eat it too. So, something you really have to think about, guys. So, I'm just showing you guys this. Hopefully, you guys take it into consideration.